Welcome to PLUSone Kiwami, the series where each month I look at the free games on PlayStation Plus and tell you if they're worth the download. After all, the games may be free, but your time is valuable. The PS4 lineup for November 2018 includes Bulletstorm Full Clip Edition, Burly Men at Sea, Roundabout, and today's game, Yakuza Kiwami. Kiwami is an updated 2016 remake of the original PS2 Yakuza game, following in the style of the prequel game Yakuza 0. This is a series that's a little bit difficult to explain, but I'm going to open up a little differently on this one by saying that it is absolutely worth dozens of hours of your time and 20 gigabytes of your hard drive space. And I'll try and do it justice in the 6 or so minutes I have in this video. This action-adventure slash beat-em-up slash open-world role-playing game puts you in the shoes of Kazuma Kiryu, a member of the Dojima family in the Tojo clan of Yakuza. For those of you asking, the Yakuza are essentially Japan's version of mobsters, except far more powerful. Kiryu takes the fall for his best friend Nishikiyama, who has killed the head of the Dojima family, and he spends the next 10 years in prison. Quick aside, this might be the only game that has a time skip that huge at the very start of the game, and it's kind of hilarious. Anyway, when Kiryu is released, he finds that Nishikiyama has risen through the ranks of the Tojo clan and completely changed. He's no longer the same old friend that Kiryu used to know, but instead a cold, heartless shell of himself. Additionally, Kiryu's old friend Yumi has gone missing, and 10 billion yen was stolen from the Tojo clan's coffers. Keep in mind, this is all taking place in like the first 10 minutes of the game, so buckle up, kiddos. I'm gonna leave the rest of the plot for you to discover, because it is so densely packed that I'm going to get some part of it wrong and my buddy Chris will yell at me. Just know that the story is very likely going to hook you in, and when you're hooked, well, you've got another 6 games to play to go through Kiryu's story, so again, buckle up, kiddos. There are twists and turns, at points reminiscent of a soap opera, except entirely in Japanese. For those of you that prefer dubs to subs, sorry, you'll have to read here. Don't let that scare you away though. I don't care for subs either, but I make an exception because of how good these games are. Densely packed is a good word to describe the entire game too, not just the plot. Kiwami, and most of the rest of the series actually, plops you into the Tokyo district of Kamurocho, a very small playground by most open world standards. Despite its size though, it's absolutely filled to the brim with side quests, side content like a full Sega arcade with old classics, or even just karaoke. These games counter the serious, often incredibly dark main narrative with some absolutely insane characters and optional quest lines. The way that the game's craziness contrasts with Kiryu, who I think smiles like once in the entire series, just makes you laugh. If you're ever overwhelmed by the main story, you can go and pound out some goofy side content to help recharge your batteries and make you smile again instead of want to cry. Plus, the English localization for the dialogue is arguably the best in all of gaming's history. Everything just clicks in such a charming way that you find yourself wanting to do everything. And trust me, there's a lot of everything. These games usually take 60 plus hours to platinum. But all of what I just said, again, is just a side dish for the main platter here, which usually involves Kiryu smashing some skulls. For much of the game, you'll be put into situations where you have to fight your way through hordes of enemies in hand-to-hand combat. In Kiwami specifically, Kiryu has 4 different stances that you can swap between on the fly, and these totally change Kiryu's abilities. There's his basic brawler style, a faster rush style that speeds up his movement and attacks, the powerful beast style that just makes him a tank, and Kiryu's dragon stance, which can render most enemies defeated in moments later in the game, but early on is weak thanks to that decade in prison. On top of this, you can grab nearby items like bikes and chairs and whatnot, and just beat people to near death with them. As you string together combos and knock heads together, you'll be building up a heat meter that allows you to perform some incredibly flashy moves that often just straight up knock out enemies. These, like the rest of the game, are absolutely ridiculous. I love it, and I promise you will too. That all said, at least early on you're gonna struggle to build up enough heat to see these moves, so don't let yourself get too frustrated in those opening hours. I don't know that the combat would hold up in any one Yakuza game for the sometimes 100 hours they take to complete, but throughout the main story and most of the side content at least, you'll feel a strong sense of progression. It feels so satisfying building Kiryu back up into the legendary Dragon of Dojima that he once was. On the note of progression, there's also an RPG-esque skill tree that, honestly, I never fully got. It's not exactly explained super well in-game in my opinion. I found myself early on asking that aforementioned buddy Chris what I should be buying so that I don't accidentally hit a wall midway through the game. This is probably the weakest part in the entirety of Kiwami, but it's not insufferable or anything, just kind of obtuse. The last thing I want to say, since I already said at the top of the video that you should +1 this to your collection, is that this is the kind of game that just sticks with you, and that's why I'm giving it such glowing praise. In fact, I wrote this entire script before even going back to play Kiwami for the footage that you've been watching, because outside of some plot nuances that I've surely forgotten, Kiwami grabbed me in a way that so many games don't. And it's not like I beat the game back during its 2017 release here in the States. I played maybe 5 hours of it and put it down simply because YouTube takes up a lot of my spare time. In short, I remember the first 5 hours of Kiwami from well over a year ago better than I do any of the PS Plus games that I played last month. Trust me, take a chance on this game. I did with Kiwami, and immediately I bought every other game in the series for a legendary binge later down the road. Even better, by this time next year, the entire series should be playable on PS4. We've already got the fantastic prequel in Yakuza 0, Kiryu's final adventure in 6, and the Kiwami remakes of 1 and 2, with PS4 remasters of 3, 4, and 5 on the way. And that's not even counting the Fist of the North Star game that came out not long ago, or the detective game Judge Eyes that comes out soon. These games come out faster than most people can play them, even putting Ratchet & Clank's prolificacy to shame. If you're watching this after November, Kiwami goes for about $20 regular price, and most of the series goes for a similar price nowadays too. You could get the first 3 games canonically, 0, Kiwami, and Kiwami 2 for the price of a new game. And they'll eat up much more of your time, I can guarantee that. If you want to see some more detailed videos about the Yakuza games, I've put a few videos by my buddy Chris in the cards in the top right corner of this video. He'll do the series far more justice than I can in 6 minutes. Or, I guess 7 minutes now, oops. With all that said, if you've played a Yakuza game, help me convince everybody else watching how amazing these games are in the comments down below, and while you're down there, make sure to hit the like button to help the channel grow. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to keep up to date with all of my PlayStation Plus reviews, my more fully detailed videos, and much, much more.